Dumb Husky and his white cat Shizun. Chapter 25. This venerable one really can't stand him. Chu Wanning couldn't force a go away to leave his throat. His face was gloomy as he paused for a long while before he changed his answer to, "Come in." "Huh? Your door isn't locked." They had been giving each other the silent treatment all day. But now, Moran had the intention of reconciling with him, so he pushed open the door as he spoke like nothing had ever happened. Chu Wanning, on the other hand, sat expressionlessly at the table. He raised his eyes and glanced at him faintly. In all fairness, Moran was incredibly handsome and the whole room seemed to brighten as soon as he walked in the door. He was indeed very young. His skin was tight and seemed to exude a faint glow. The corners of his mouth were naturally slightly curled, and he seemed to be smiling even when he wasn't showing any emotion. Chu Wanning didn't move his eyes off of Moran. His slender eyelashes drooped and raised his hand to pinch out the incense burning on the table. He coldly asked, "What are you doing here?" "I came to check your injury." Moran awkwardly coughed. His eyes fell on Chu Wanning's shoulder and he froze. "You dressed it already?" Chu Wanning faintly answered, "Yes." Moran didn't know what to say. He really hated Chu Wanning, and he was furious that Chu Wanning had hurt Shimei. But, after calming down, Moran wasn't completely without a conscience. Yes, he didn't like him, but he didn't forget that Chu Wanning's shoulder was injured. In the enclosed coffin, Chu Wanning had tightly guarded him in his arms, blocking the master of ceremonies deity's claws with his own body. His body had trembled in pain but he didn't let go. Moran really hates Chu Wanning's guts. However, in addition to this hate, some very complicated emotions were always mixed in with it for some reason. He was a crude person. He didn't read books when he was a child. Although he obtained some literary knowledge later, he still couldn't grasp many concepts easily when it came to many delicate things, especially when it came to feelings. For example, when it came to Chu Wanning, Moran rubbed his head and pondered. The back of his head was going to go bald first before he could figure out what this feeling was. He can only identify definite kinds of emotions such love, hate, detest, happiness and unhappiness. If all these emotions were mixed together, Taxian Jun, the cultivation emperor, would get cross-eyed and really dizzy. He didn't understand. He couldn't understand. He didn't know. "Help, my head hurts." So, Moran didn't stop dwelling on it. Besides, he didn't have time to focus on any details other than Shimei. He didn't hold good feelings for Chu Wanning in his heart. He was secretly plotting when he might have an opportunity in the future, he would make him pay with double the ferocity. At the same time, he felt guilty. After an internal battle with himself, he finally knocked on Chu Wanning's door. He didn't want to owe Chu Wanning. But Chu Wanning was more stubborn and ruthless than he thought. Moran stared at the pile of blood-stained cotton gauze on the table, the bowl of hot water stained red with blood, and the sharp knife that was thrown haphazardly aside. The tip of the knife was still coated with flesh and blood. It made his head spin. How did he manage to treat himself? Had he really cut off the festering flesh without so much as blinking? Just imagining it sent a chill down his spine. Was this person even human? He thought how when he had cleaned up Shimei's wound, Shimei had groaned softly in pain with tears in the corners of his eyes. Even though Moran didn't like Chu Wanning, he couldn't help but silently give him credit. Elder Yuhang was truly domineering and manly, no arguments there. After standing in place for a while, Moran was the first to break the silence. He coughed, tapping his toes against the floor and awkwardly said, "What happened in the Chen house?" "Shizun, I'm sorry." Chu Wanning didn't say anything. Moran stole a glance at him. "I shouldn't have yelled at you." Chu Wanning still ignored him. His face was calm. As always, he had no reaction, but that didn't mean he wasn't aggravated, just simply not saying anything. Mo Ran walked over. When he got closer, he saw the mess of bandages on Chu Wanning's shoulder. The cotton gauze was tied in several different ways. It looked like a group of crabs that were stuck together. Also, for a person who doesn't know how to wash his own clothes, can he really be trusted to treat himself? Mo Ran sighed, "Shizun, don't be angry." "Do I look angry?" Chu Wanning angrily responded. Mo Ran. After a long pause, Mo Ran said, "Shizun, that's not how you wrap a bandage." He retorted unceremoniously, "Do you want to teach me?" Mo Ran. He raised his hand. He wanted to help Chu Wanning untie the gauze and wrap it again, but he was observant and felt that if he dared to touch him, he might end up with a lashing, so he hesitated. He raised his hand, then lowered it, and then raised it again, repeating the action several times. Chu Wanning was getting annoyed. He squinted at him. "What are you doing? Do you still want to fight me?" He really wanted to fight him, but now wasn't a good time. Mo Ran smiled sheepishly. Throwing caution to the wind, he suddenly reached over and grabbed his shoulders, dimples appearing at the corners of his mouth. "Shizun, let me help you bandage it again." Chu Wanning wanted to refuse, but Mo Ran's warm fingers had already wrapped around the bandage. His mouth felt dry and stiff. He couldn't speak, so his lips moved slightly but nothing came out. The gauze was peeled off layer by layer. Blood had soaked through it, and when it was all torn back, the 5 holes were piercingly obvious and hideous to look at. Just looking at it made Mo Ran shuddered. It was many times more serious than the wound on Shimei's face. Mo Ran got lost in his thought as he was stunned, then suddenly asked softly, "Does it hurt?" Chu Wanning lowered his long and slender eyelashes, and simply said, "It's fine." Mo Ran said, "I'll be gentle." Chu Wanning didn't know what he was thinking, and suddenly his ear flushed a little red. As a result, he got angry with himself again. He thought he was going crazy. All day he had been thinking up such nonsensical thoughts. His expression grew stiff. His temper worsened, and he said dryly, "It's up to you." The candlelight in the guest room flickered. In the dim light, he could see that Chu Wanning had completely missed some spots with the ointment. Mo Ran was honestly speechless. He thought it was a miracle that Chu Wanning was still alive and healthy today. "Shizun. What happened to you today at the Chen residence? Why did you suddenly lash out and hit someone?" he asked while applying some ointment. Chu Wanning was silent for a while, then replied, "I was angry." Mo Ran asked, "Why were you so angry?" Chu Wanning didn't want to trouble his disciple, so he told Mo Ran a brief and concise version of Luo Xiangxian's story. After Mo Ran listened to the story, he shook his head, "You're too stupid. In this kind of situation, even if you're angry, you shouldn't confront them about it to their face. If it were me, I would have made a mess of things and lied to them that the evil spirit had been removed, and then pat their asses and leave, letting them fend for themselves. Just look at you making a scene over such a rotten man. You knew you probably wouldn't get through to him, and then you missed and wounded Shimei." Halfway through the sentence, Mo Ran abruptly stopped. He stared silently at Chu Wanning. He was tying the bandage carefully and got a little forgetful. He was talking to Chu Wanning like he had when he was 32, pretty cheekily. Chu Wanning obviously noticed. He squinted his eyes, looking coldly at Mo Ran. That look resembled a very familiar phrase, "See if I don't whip you to death." Before his brain could thought up a response, Chu Wanning has already begun speaking. He asked indifferently, "Is Shi Mingjing the one I wanted to hit?" When Shi Mei was mentioned, Mo Ran's originally calm mental state started to shift and his tone hardened. "Isn't he the person you hit?" Chu Wanning did regret hitting him, but he couldn't admit it. At this moment, his face was sullen and he didn't say a word. Chu Wanning was the stubborn type. Mo Ran was the lovesick type. Their eyes met and sparks crackled. The atmosphere that had just eased up a little became hopelessly charged again. Moran said, "Shimei didn't do anything wrong. Shizun, you hurt him by accident. Don't you want to say that you're sorry?" Chu Wanning narrowed his eyes dangerously. "Are you questioning me?" "I'm not." Moran paused. "I just feel bad that he got hurt but never got an apology from Shizun." Under the candlelight, the handsome and youthful teenager finished wrapping the last bandage on Chu Wanning's wound and carefully tied a knot. It may have looked like the scene was quite warm, but the mood between them had changed. Especially Chu Wanning's, his chest felt like a jar of vinegar had exploded in it. The feeling of sourness was overwhelming and he felt angry and annoyed. Apologize? How do you even spell that word? Who'll teach him how to write it? Moran said, "It'll take half a year for the wound on his face to heal. When I gave him some medicine just now, he still told me not to blame you." "Shizun, he doesn't blame you, but do you think that justifies what you did?" This sentence was tantamount to adding fuel to the fire. Chu Wanning had been enduring it but he finally couldn't hold it back. He suppressed his voice and muttered, "Get out." "Moran." Chu Wanning exploded, "Get out." Moran was forced out and the door slammed shut in his face, almost clamping his fingers. Moran was furious. Just look at this. What kind of person was this? All this just to avoid apologizing? Such cherished and treasured pride. What was so difficult about saying sorry? All he needs to do is move his mouth. This venerable one was the Emperor Ta Xianjun, yet this venerable one didn't hesitate to apologize to others. As for the Baidu immortal, half of his words were inexplicable, as if he had swallowed them. What a ridiculous temper. No wonder no one cared about such a handsome face. It was such a waste. He deserved to stay single for the rest of his life. Since Chu Wanning would rather ignore him and give him a closed door to talk to, then of course the high and mighty Ta Xianjun, the emperor of the human realm, wouldn't lose any sleep over this. Although he was tenacious and as hard to get rid of as a piece of sticky candy, he'd rather stuck to Shimei, not his Shizun. He immediately left without a care and went to join Shimei. "Why are you back so soon?" Shimei was in the midst of lying down to rest when he saw Moran come in. He froze and sat up, long strands of ink hair hanging all over the place. "How's Shizun?" "Very good. His temper is as strong as usual." "Shimei." Moran brought over a chair and sat on it backwards. His hand rested on the back of the Taishi chair, a lazy smile hanging on the corner of his mouth. His gaze flicked across the appearance of Shimei's soft and long hair. Shimei said, "Why don't I go and see him?" "Don't bother about it." Moran rolled his eyes. "He's in terrible temper." "Did you make him angry again?" asked Shimei. "As if he needs someone to provoke him." "He makes himself angry. I think he's made of wood considering he's so flammable." Shimei shook his head, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. Moran said, "Get some rest. I'll borrow the kitchen downstairs and make you some food." Shimei said, "No need to fuss. You haven't closed your eyes all night. Aren't you going to sleep?" "Haha, I am in good spirits." Moran laughed. "But if you can't bear me leaving, I can stay with you for a while until you fall asleep." Shimei hurriedly waved his hand and said warmly, "No, if you have to look at me like this, I won't be able to sleep either. You should go to bed early. Don't exhaust yourself." The curvature in the corners of his mouth stiffened slightly. Moran was a little sad. Although Shimei treated him kindly, he always maintained such a distant attitude. It was the attitude of someone who was obviously close at hand, but as the moon in the mirror and the flower in the water, he could be seen but not obtained. All right. In the end, he just tried to cheer up and laughed. Moran's smile was very bright. When he wasn't completely evil, he was actually pretty silly and cute. "Call me if you need anything." I'm either right next door or downstairs. Moran raised his hand, wanting to touch his hair, but he held back. He spun his hand around in the air and scratched his head. I'm leaving. Outside of the room, Moran couldn't help but sneeze. He sniffed. Because Kaidi town produced incense, the price of all the different kinds of incense wasn't as expensive, so the inn wasn't stingy with it. Each room was lit with a long branch of special incense. One can ward off evil spirits, another can dehumidify, the last one can give the room a nice fragrance. But as soon as Moran smelled the incense, it made him uncomfortable. But if Shimei liked it, he would endure it. Coming downstairs, Moran wandered over to the innkeeper and slipped him a silver ingot. He squinted his eyes and said with a smile, "Innkeeper, do me a favor." The innkeeper looked at the silver ingot and smiled more politely at Moran. "What is this esteemed cultivator's request?" Moran said, "I see that not many people come here to eat breakfast. I wanted to discuss that with you. I want to use the kitchen this morning. Please let the other guests know. How much money would breakfast make him?" It would probably be impossible to earn a silver ingot in half a month. The innkeeper immediately smiled and agreed, leading the swaggering Mo Weo into the kitchen of the inn. "You want to cook by yourself? It's better to let the chef in our inn do it. He's very talented." "No need." Moran smiled. "Have you heard of the Jade Wine building in Xiongtan?" "Ah. Is that the famous music performance building that started getting popular more than a year ago?" Moran: "Yeah." The boss took a peek outside and confirmed that his wife was busy and couldn't overhear. He snickered and said, "Who hasn't heard of it? It's the most famous restaurant on the Xiangjiang River. It used to have a lead musician there. It's a pity it's so far away, otherwise, I'd want to listen to her play a song." Moran laughed, "Thank you for the compliment. I'll pass it on to her." "Pass it on?" The innkeeper was puzzled. "Do you know her?" Moran said, "More than just know her." "Wow, you don't say? But you cultivators can be, well." Moran interrupted him with a smile, "Other than the lead musician, do you know anything else?" Their food was said to be a must. The corners of Moran's mouth curled higher and he smiled brighter. He skillfully picked up the kitchen knife and said, "Before I took up cultivation, I was a cook in the kitchen in the Jade Wine building for several years. You said that your chefs make delicious dishes. Whose is better, theirs or mine?" The innkeeper was even more shocked, and stammered out, "You're really?" He couldn't get the words out. Moran gazed at him with narrowed eyes. His smile was barely holding back his smug and cocky demeanor. "You can leave. This chef is going to cook something." The innkeeper didn't know that he was talking to the former Lord of Darkness, and he put on a cheeky expression. "I've heard a lot about Jade Wine House's exquisite desserts. I wonder if you would let me have a bite once they're ready." He didn't think this was too high of a request. Moran would definitely agree. Who would have expected Moran to squint his eyes and say with a smirk, "You want some?" "Humph. Really?" Moran snorted. He was bursting with pride. He scoffed, "You think I would cook for just anyone? This venerable one is doing this just for Shimei. If not for him, I wouldn't even be lighting a fire to cook." He flipped a radish over and started to slice it, muttering. The innkeeper slumped defeatedly. He rubbed his hands and stood there awkwardly. He half-heartedly chuckled at him, then left. He was also muttering to himself. This venerable one? For someone this young, his spiritual core hasn't even fully formed yet. He thought about his chatter and how he was probably referring to his elder sister disciple, but there was no female cultivator among the group who walked with him today. The innkeeper rolled his eyes. This person must be deluded. Moran stayed busy in the kitchen for several hours. It was almost noon when the work was finished, and he rushed upstairs to wake Shimei up. When passing by Chu Wanning's room, he slowly came to a stop. Should he ask if he wanted to eat together? Thinking of Chu Wanning's harsh temperament, Mo Ran's heart skipped a beat, his face full of contempt. No, no, no. He only had a few portions. There wasn't enough to share with him. End chapter. Dumb Husky and his white cat Shizun. Chapter 26. This venerable one's first meeting with him. The sun was rising higher as more and more people arrived at the inn. It was getting too noisy downstairs for Mo Ran, so he asked the waiter to bring all the dishes to his room. In the end, he invited Chu Wanning. After all, he is still his Shizun. He's not the emperor of the human realm right now, so he still had to follow proper etiquette rules. There were 3 bowls of steaming noodle soup on the square beechwood table. These noodles weren't like the noodles being sold around town, these noodles were homemade. They were smooth and chewy, covered with thick slices of beef, fatty sausages, fresh and tender bean sprouts, plump bok choy, golden scrambled eggs. It had a lively color and it really looked like a beautiful dish. But the best thing about these 3 bowls of noodles was not the garnish, nor the large pieces of meat or rich ingredients, but the bone broth that had been simmered over 4 hours on a low fire, poured into the noodle bowl, a creamy white soup floating in the red sesame oil. Mo Ran took a stone bowl and examined the fresh, spicy seasoning boiled into the soup. It had a tangy aroma and a rich flavor. He figured that she may loved spicy food, and both the red sesame oil and the spicy peppers were pretty hot. Seeing she may readily eating his meal, the curves in the corners of Mo Ran's mouth grew softer. He snuck a few glances and couldn't help but ask, "Does it taste good?" She may said, "It's delicious." Chu Wanning didn't say anything, his deep scowl seeming to suggest that the heavens owed him 100 gold and mountains of silver. Mo Ran said with a smug look, "Then let me know when you want to eat. I'll cook you something." Water pricked in Shimei's eyes. He raised his gaze and smiled at Mo Ran, a soft expression on his face. If it weren't for Chu Wanning, who was sitting in between him and the beauty in front of him, Mo Ran didn't know if he would eat the noodles or if he would simply devour Shimei instead. Shimei didn't eat many bean sprouts or fatty sausages, but he inhaled the beef and bok choy. Mo Ran, who had been quietly observing next to him, stretched out his chopsticks and moved the peas and fatty intestines into his bowl, replacing them with several pieces of beef from his own bowl. The disciples of Shizun Peak all ate together in the dining hall and would often trade food with each other, so Shimei didn't find this strange at all and smiled, "You don't like beef?" "No, I love bean sprouts." He snorted and ducked his head. The tips of his ears were tinted a faint red flush. Chu Wanning blankly picked out the bean sprouts in his bowl with chopsticks and threw them all into Mo Ran's bowl. "I don't like bean sprouts." He threw all the beef in his bowl into Shimei's bowl. "I don't like beef either." Then he frowned, staring at what was left in his bowl. He pursed his lips silently. Shimei asked cautiously, "Shizun, do you not like it?" Chu Wanning. He didn't respond. He lowered his head, silently picking up a piece of bok choy. He took a small bite and his face screwed up. With the task, he neatly put down his chopsticks. "Mo Weiyu, did you knock a jar of hot sauce into the soup?" He hadn't expected to receive such a snarky remark about the breakfast he had worked so hard on. Mo Ran was shocked and looked up, a noodle still hanging from the corner of his mouth. He blinked at Chu Wanning innocently, confused. He must have heard him wrong, so he slurped up the noodle and asked, "What?" Chu Wanning didn't mince his words this time, "Were you trying to make something that people can actually eat? Is this edible?" Mo Ran just blinked a few more times. He finally determined that Chu Wanning was degrading him, and he said angrily, "How is it not edible?" Chu Wanning's eyebrows twitched, and he said sharply, "It's really hard to get down." Mo Ran choked. This was the craft that he had picked up from Jade Wine House. "Shizun, you're too picky." Shimei piped up, Shizun, you haven't eaten anything in over a day. Even if you don't like it, you should at least eat some of it. Chu Wanning got up and said coldly, I don't like spicy food. After he spoke, he turned and left. The two people left at the table suddenly fell into an awkward silence. Shi Mei was a little surprised. Shizun doesn't eat spicy food? How come I don't know that? Ran, did you know? Mo Ran stared at the noodles that Chu Wanning left on the table. He had barely touched it. Internally fuming, he nodded. No, I didn't know. That was a lie. Mo Ran knew Chu Wanning didn't like spicy food. It's just that he forgot. After all, he had been mixed up with this person for most of his life during his previous life, and he knew what Chu Wanning did and didn't like to eat. But he didn't care, so he never remembered it. When he returned to his room alone, Chu Wanning lay down, facing the wall. His eyes stayed open, unable to fall asleep. He had lost a lot of blood and consumed a lot of spiritual energy. The few grains of rice he had eaten this morning did little to replenish his strength. In fact, his stomach was already empty and it was hard to bear. He wasn't very good at taking care of himself. Whenever he was in a bad mood, he didn't eat it at all, almost like he thought he could fill his stomach with his rage. He didn't know what he was mad at. In reality, he didn't want to know. However, in the silence, a face appeared faintly in front of his eyes. He had a bright smile, the corners of his mouth slightly curled, and a pair of dark, gleaming eyes that shone a somewhat gentle deep purple. It looked soft and warm. Chu Wanning clutched the mattress so tightly that his knuckles turned white. He was unwilling to indulge this and closed his eyes to get rid of that wantonly laughing face. But after closing his eyes, his past became more and more turbulent, and a tidal wave of memories flooded his mind. The first time he saw Mo Ran was in front of Shizun Peak. On that day, the sun was scorching, and the 20 elders were all gathered, whispering quietly to each other. Elder Yuheng was naturally an exception. He wasn't so stupid as to willingly stand over there and bake in the sun. Instead, he hid under the blossoming tree by himself. Absent-mindedly, he lifted a set of glove fingers, examining whether his newly manufactured Xian iron nail set was freely retractable. Of course, he himself didn't have the need to use retractable nails. This curved iron and gold armor set was forged specifically for the low-level disciples of Shizun Peak. The lower cultivation realm was adjacent to the ghost realm, and it was often dangerous. It wasn't uncommon for low-level disciples to get injured and be killed. Chu Wanning could see this happening, although he never said anything. He had been thinking hard about the solution and wanted to create a light, flexible, and easy-to-handle weapon to help. The others were discussing something with great interest. Have you heard? The sect leader's long-lost nephew was rescued from a sea of fire. Everyone else in the building died. If the sect leader arrived even a minute later, I'm afraid that his nephew would have become nothing more than a pile of ashes. What a blessing. It must be his father protecting him from the afterlife. It's such a pity that he lived his childhood separated from his father. He has suffered so much. The child is called Mo Ran? He's 15 years old, right? That's far too weak a name. Does he have a courtesy name? Elder Suanji, you don't know anything about this. This child grew up in a music hall when he was young. It would be great to have a name, but where would he get a courtesy name in a place like that? I heard that the sect leader has drafted up several names for him and he's in the process of choosing one. I don't know which one he'll end up picking. The sect leader really values his young nephew. Of course. Not to mention even Madame Wang is heartbroken and distressed thinking about him. Hey, I bet the only unhappy person on Shizun Peak is probably our proud son of heaven. Elder Tanlang. You can't say that kind of nonsense. Haha. Sorry. But our prideful son of heaven is truly arrogant. He has no respect for his elders. He plays with chickens and dogs all day like everything should be handed to him on a silver platter. He's out of control. Elder Tanlang, you've had too much wine today. The person next to him repeatedly nudged him and nodded his chin towards Chu Wanning standing in the distance. His implication couldn't have been more obvious. Xuemeng, the proud son of heaven, was Chu Wanning's disciple. Saying that Xuemeng was out of control was essentially the same as turning around and mocking Chu Wanning's teachings. Elder Yuheng didn't bother with the usual slowness and step-by-step teachings of cultivation. His teachings were taught with an expert style, like something out of this world. But everyone knew that he had a terrible temper. If anyone accidentally pressed his buttons, they should cover their neck and wait to be beaten to death. Chu Wanning had already heard everything they had said. But he didn't bother to pay attention. His interest in what others said about him was probably not as strong as his interest in his Xian nail set. That said, the armor set was good, but it wasn't resilient enough. When encountering a thick-skinned monster, they might not be able to swiftly tear through the monster's skin. He should go back and add a little keel powder. That should make it more efficient. Seeing that Chu Wanning didn't respond, the elders breathed a sigh of relief and continued their discussion in hushed voices. The sect leader called us here today to choose a Shizun for young Master Mo, right? How strange. Why doesn't the sect leader teach him himself? It seems that his nephew's root foundation core isn't good for practicing the sect leader's core teachings, someone murmured. But that wouldn't be enough to gather all the elders and let the boy pick one of us, right? Elder Lucan sighed quietly. He played with his elegant and soft long hair, complaining, I feel like a cheap cabbage right now, placed on the table, waiting for young Master Mo to pick me. Everyone. Can this man not just blurt out what everyone was clearly thinking? After waiting for a while, the sect leader finally arrived. He walked up 1,000 steps to the base of sky-reaching pagoda, a young man following behind him. Chu Wanning only casually glanced over. Before he could take a proper look, he turned his gaze away and continued to study his Xian nail set. He didn't bother to take a second glance. When it came to disciples, one has to mention how non-traditional and unconventional Shizun Peak was. In other sects, the master held all the power. He would touch the head of a certain new disciple and say, young man, I can see that you are quite wise. From now on, you are my disciple. The disciple didn't even have a chance to say no. Either that or the master would look indifferent and contemptuous, waving his sleeves and saying, young man, your forehead is too high, your eyes are dull, and you have no backbone. This isn't what I want my disciples to look like. You have no relationship with me. I won't accept you as my disciple. The disciple had no time to prove himself before the master would fly away with the whoosh of his sword, moving faster than the dog. Shizun Peak was different. The master and the disciple chose each other. What does that mean? There were 20 elders on Shizun Peak. After being initiated, all the disciples can devote themselves to the post and interact with each other for a period of time, then express their desire to continue training under that elder. If the elder accepts, then everyone's happy. If the elder didn't accept, the disciple can suck up and follow them around until either the elder relents or the disciple gives up. Logically speaking, Chu Wanning had superb skills and a handsome appearance, so he should have a large number of disciples crowding around to follow him as their Shizun. But this wasn't the case. Chu Wanning's face was beautiful, but his temper was horrible. Rumors say that he would beat a female disciple just the same as a male disciple when he got angry. He'd even drown the male disciples in his pond. Few people had the courage to follow such a master. Therefore, no one studied under Elder Yuheng. Besides Xuemeng, the proud son of heaven, and Xuemeng's good friend Shimei, he hadn't accepted anyone else. Everyone would rather respectfully call him elder, but they didn't want to call him Shizun. Chu Wanning said with a stone-cold expression that he didn't care. He bowed his head nonchalantly and continued designing his cold mechanical weapons. All his arrow sleeves and martial whistles were designed for others. The sooner they were completed, the sooner more people could be spared from suffering. So, he didn't expect that Mo Ran wouldn't hesitate to pick him. He was frowning, folding the sharp tips on the Xian nail set, thinking about how to improve it. He didn't pay attention to what the sect leader had said to everyone. He didn't know when, but his surroundings gradually quieted down. After thinking about how he could improve the nails, Chu Wanning suddenly realized that the noisy people around him has become too silent. So, he finally moved his gaze away from the nail set, and with some impatience and questioning, he lifted his eyes. He was met with a face. It was almost dazzling in the sunlight. It was a handsome young man looking up at him. There was a casual smile hanging off the edge of his mouth, dimples sinking into his cheeks, giving off a misleading air of innocence. A pair of blackish-purple eyes were staring at him unblinking with a mix between eagerness and curiosity. He had just arrived and didn't understand the rules. Standing this close would be considered rude. That person had suddenly appeared in front of him. Chu Wanning was taken aback. As if he had been burned, he subconsciously jerked back a step. With a bang, his head hit the trunk of the tree. The young man's eyes widened slightly. Ah! Chu Wanning. The young man. Chu Wanning, what are you doing? The young man smiled and said, Master, I've been looking at you for a long time. Why are you ignoring me? End chapter. Dumb Husky and his white cat Shizun. Chapter 27. This venerable one will cook you a bowl of noodles. Chu Wanning felt completely faint. He blamed himself for being so distracted and unsuspecting on Shizun Peak. He didn't even notice someone came near him. What was going on? Where did this child come from? His last name was Mo, but Mo, what was it again? Mo Xiao? Mozu? Mo. You. He composed himself and put on an expression that screamed, get away. The surprise and panic in his phoenix eyes were quickly masked by his usual harsh and threatening demeanor. You. He raised his hand out of habit to discipline him, but something suddenly caught his wrist. Chu Wanning was stunned. He had been around for a while yet no one had ever dared grab his wrist so casually. For a while, he was frozen in place, not knowing what he should do. Pull it away and give him a backhanded slap? Wouldn't the gesture be described as indecent, like he was no different from a woman in this situation? Then pull his hand away and not slap him? Wouldn't that seem like he was being too nice? Chu Wanning hesitated for a long time and didn't move, but the young man laughed. What's this on your hand? It looks pretty good. Do you teach how to make stuff like this? Everyone else has introduced themselves already, but you haven't spoken yet. Which elder are you? Hey, does you headache? With so many questions thrown at him, while Chu Wanning's mind hadn't hurt before, now it did. His mind felt like it was about to split in half. As he got irritated, a golden light in his hands started to glow. When they saw that Tianwen was about to be summoned, the other elders were horrified and moved. Chu Wanning was crazy, right? He would even dare to whip young Master Mo. Then, Mo Ran was suddenly holding his hand. Now Mo Ran had trapped both of his hands. Mo Ran didn't notice the danger of his situation. He pulled him closer and stood in front of him. He tilted his head and said with a smile, My name is Mo Ran. I don't know anyone here, but just from looking at you, I like you the most. How about I follow you as my Shizun, is that okay? This was completely unexpected. The people around them were even more horrified. Several elders gaped with mouths ajar. Elder Suanji, huh? Elder Pajun, what? Elder Kisha, oh. Elder Joulu, Elder Tanlang, ha, ridiculous. Elder Lucan was the most feminine of the bunch with wavy hair and eyes flooded with peach blossoms. Ah, this little boy is so bold. He's truly a courageous young man. He might even be so bold as to touch Elder Yu Heng's ass. I beg you. Can you not say something so repulsive? Elder Kishaw said with disgust. Elder Lucan rolled his eyes gracefully and hummed, "Fine, let me put it more eloquently. He's truly a courageous young man. He might even be so bold as to touch Elder Yu Heng's buttocks. Elder Kishaw, just kill him and forget this ever happened." The most popular of all the elders was the gentle and jade-like Elder Suanji. His techniques were easy to learn, and he was a modest gentleman. Most of the disciples on Shizun Peak study under him. Chu Wanning originally thought that this Mo Ran would have been just like all the others. If not Elder Suanji, then it should be the energetic Elder Pa Jun. It never should have been him. But Mo Ran was standing so close to him. His face showed a kind of intimacy and affection that was unfamiliar to him. He was like some clown that was just chosen. It was all so distressing for no reason. Chu Wanning only knew how to deal with awe, fear, and disgust. Something like affection was too complicated for him to handle. He didn't even have to think about it. He immediately rejected Mo Ran. The young man froze. Hidden under his slender eyelashes, there was a sense of loneliness and unwillingness in his eyes. He lowered his head, thought for a second, and unreasonably muttered, "Anyways, I still choose you." Chu Wanning. The sect leader was watching with great interest. He cut in with a smile, "Ran, do you know who he is?" "He didn't tell me, how would I?" "Haha, since you don't know who he is, why would you pick him?" Mo Ran was still tugging on Chu Wanning's hands. He turned his head, smiling, and said to the sect leader, "Because he looks the most gentle and easiest to talk to." In the darkness, Chu Wanning's eyes snapped open, everything appearing fuzzy. That was one hell of a scene to remember. He didn't know what the hell was wrong with Mo Ran's eyes back then to actually think that he was gentle. Not to mention that all of Shizun Peak heard about it. They all sent affectionate greetings to young Master Mo Ran with looks that said, "Look at this foolish child." Chu Wanning lifted his hand to the corner of his faintly throbbing forehead. His shoulder hurt, his mind was in turmoil, his stomach was hungry, and his head was spinning. It seemed like he wasn't going to sleep anytime soon. He fumed on the bed for a while. He sat up and was about to light a stick of incense to calm his mind when suddenly there was another knock on the door. Mo Ran was outside. Chu Wanning. He didn't answer. He didn't say whether to stay or leave. But this time, the door opened by itself. Chu Wanning looked up gloomily. The lit match in his hand hovered in mid-air but never reached the stick of incense. After a while, it went out. Chu Wanning said, "Get out." Mo Ran strolled in. He was holding a steaming bowl of noodles, fresh from the pot. This time it was a bit simpler. The noodles weren't as fancy. The rich white noodle soup was garnished with chopped green onion and white sesame seeds, small spare ribs, bok choy, and a slightly browned poached egg. Chu Wanning was incredibly hungry, but he didn't let it show on his face. He glanced at the noodles, then at Mo Ran. He turned his face away and didn't say anything. Mo Ran put the noodles on the table, and gently said, "I asked the inn's chef to make another bowl." Chu Wanning lowered his eyes. Sure enough, Mo Ran didn't make this dish himself. "Eat some," Mo Ran said. "This bowl isn't spicy, has no beef, and no bean sprouts." After speaking, he left and closed the door for Chu Wanning on his way out. He apologized for Chu Wanning's injury. But he could only do so much. In the room, Chu Wanning leaned against the window, not knowing what to think. He crossed his arms and stared at the bowl of spare rib noodles from a distance until the heat of the noodles dissipated and they grew cold. He finally walked over and sat down. He picked up the chopsticks, stirred up the cold and soggy noodles, and slowly ate them. The case of the Chen family's haunting had been closed. The next day, they picked up the black horses they had boarded from inside the stables and returned to the sect the same way they had arrived. In the streets and alleys, tea stalls and rice shops, the people of Kaidi town were all talking about the Chen family's affairs. A huge scandal had broken out from this small town, one large enough for the townspeople to talk about it for a whole year. I didn't expect that young Master Chen had been secretly married to Miss Luo for so long. Miss Luo is so pitiful. If you ask me, if the Chen family hadn't gotten rich, they wouldn't be able to survive this affair. Sure enough, men can't handle their money. Once they have money, only misfortune will await them. One man was unhappy and said, this wasn't young Master Chen's fault. It's his parents' fault. Chen Yuan, why, that son of a bitch. His children and grandchildren should only give birth to children without eyes in the future. Another said, the dead are pitiful, but what about the living? Look at Chen Yao, Yao Qinjin. She's the one who's truly been wronged. That black-hearted mother of the Chen family deceived her. Tell me, what should she do now? Just get remarried. The man rolled his eyes and sneered, remarried? Are you here to get married? The mud-coated man who was teased bared his teeth and picked at them, grinning, if that woman at home agrees, I'd marry her. Miss Yao looks so beautiful, I don't mind her being a widow. But, the toad wants to eat swan meat. Note, means having unrealistic wishes or expectations. Mo Ran sat on the back of the horse, ears perked up, listening to all the conversations in high spirits. If it weren't for Chu Wanning's closed eyes, frown, and the words extremely noisy essentially spelled out on his forehead, Mo Ran might have wanted to go join the villagers. They walked together and finally left the main city, arriving at the outskirts of the Kaidi town. Shi Mei suddenly gasped and pointed to the distance, Shizun, look over there. In front of the ruined Master of Ceremonies deity's earthen temple, there was a large group of peasants in brown clothes and shorts. They were busy moving the bricks and stones. It seemed that they were planning to repair the damaged earthen temple and rebuild the golden body of the Master of Ceremonies deity. Shi Mei said anxiously, Shizun, the old Master of Ceremonies deity is gone, but they've made a new one. Will this be cultivated into an immortal body again and do evil? Chu Wanning, I don't know. Should we go and persuade them not to? Chu Wanning, the custom of ghost marriages in Kaidi town has been around for several generations. How would you or I be able to persuade them in just a few words? Let's go. As he spoke, dust flew up from the horse's hoof as he rode away. It was already dusk when they returned to Shizhung Peak. Chu Wanning said to the two disciples in front of the mountain gate, you go to Loyalty Hall and explain what happened. I'll go to the Court of Discipline. Mo Ran looked puzzled, why would you go to the Court of Discipline? Shi Mei, on the other hand, looked worried. Chu Wanning nonchalantly said, to receive my punishment. Although it's said that an emperor commits the same crime as the common people, what emperor would actually have to go to jail for killing someone? The same goes for the cultivation world. The elders who break the sect rules are as equally guilty as the disciples, but in most sects, it's just empty talk. In fact, if an elder breaks a rule, it was good enough just to write an apology letter. What fool would actually go to be punished with a willow vine or dozens of sticks? So, after listening to Chu Wanning's explanation, Elder Zhou complexion turned green. No, Elder Yuhang, did you really beat your client? Chu Wanning was answered indifferently, yes. You're so. Chu Wanning raised his stare and gave him a sullen look. Elder Zhou, shut up. According to the law, for breaking this rule, the punishment is 200 cane strikes, kneeling in Wushan Temple for 7 days, and being forbidden from leaving the grounds for 3 months. Chu Wanning said. I have no defense and I voluntarily accept the punishment. Elder Zhou. He looked around and hooked his fingers, and the door to the Court of Discipline closed with a clang. The surroundings fell silent, and it was only the two of them that stood opposite each other. Chu Wanning, what's the meaning of this? Well, Elder Yuhang, it's not that you don't understand the rules and their consequences, It's just that it shouldn't be something that you should be overly concerned with. This matter is finished. Let's forget it. If I punish you, won't the sect leader be angry with me when he finds out? Chu Wanning didn't bother to talk such nonsense with him and simply said, I hold people accountable according to the law, and I should also be held accountable myself in accordance to the law. Kneeling down in front of the hall, facing the plaque of sect rules, he said, please commence with the punishment. End chapter.